When you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what the man has to say. For it isn't your father, your mother, or wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The fellow whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back at you from the glass. Some people may think you are a straight shooting chump and call you a wonderful guy. But the man in the glass says you're only a bum. If you can't look him straight in the eye, he's the fellow to please. Never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear up to the end, and you have passed your most dangerous, difficult test. If the man in the glass is your friend, you may fool the whole world down to your pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass. But your final reward will be heartache and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass. Hey everybody, welcome to another segment of the Bold Lounge. I'm your guy, Ray Ramos, and we're going to continue this exciting kind of discussion we had with these two gentlemen, John Johnson and Elliot Allen, where we delved into understanding and adapting the new generation in terms of mentoring and how to mentor these new young men. So shout out to these two men. You know, I got my New York Knicks. I'm bleeding blue and orange today, and I'm also repping my Bad Bunny. You know, to all my Boica listeners, you know what I'm saying? We got to cover everybody, right? So, gentlemen, we'll do a brief introduction. Please let everybody know who you are again, and we'll go get right to it.
John Johnson, man, I've been mentoring for over 20 years. I've been hand in hand with Elliot, hand in hand with Ray, run a youth organization as well, Dad's Club, on my Dad's Club as well. I am just so honored to be here to continue this conversation, a well-needed conversation. So thank you very much, y'all.
Yeah, you know, Elliot Allen, you know, founded a mental conditioning movement, founded a mental conditioning gym, a fighter in the Dad's Club. So I work out constantly with John, and I'm getting into Ray's gym. We've been working with him. So all of these things are mindset things, and I'm just ready to go. I'm ready to get into the action. Let's go.
All right, let's go. I'm blessed to have you guys on. This is going to be great. Just a quick recap. We got into the last time we talked about understanding the generational divide. We went into what are the key differences in work ethic, expectations, and communication. We talked about in what ways can the older generation learn from the new generation. And then we tapped right into the value and impact of mentoring, right? We talked about beyond traditional career advice. Can you share specific stories? And you guys delved into some personal stories of your mentoring journey. And why is dedication a part of mentoring and understanding the why of why we mentor? So we're going to jump right and pick off from that again and go right into the practical aspects of mentoring. And I want to start this off with saying, what are the core qualities or skills that make a great mentor for this new generation, especially in a rapidly changing world?
Ooh, okay. I'm going to jump in there first. One word that I would use is adaptation. You got to be able to adapt. You know, it's really a lot of times what I find is mentors come in with a streamlined mindset and not one that can adapt to different environments. Because I think really what you're mentoring is based on the environment that you are dealing with. If you're dealing with a kid that is coming out of the quote unquote, I don't like using the word the hood, but out of a certain neighborhood, they see things in a different dynamic. You have to adapt to that. You have to adapt to the terminology. Like their terminology is different than ours, as we have the old school terminology. You know, they have the young school terminology. So what I think is that you have to adapt to be effective. You have to be able to adapt.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It is important, as John said, to be able to adapt to what you have in front of you in a particular fight. I want to use again right off the bat a quick boxing analogy. You know, as a trainer, you know, when you're training a fighter, one of the most important things that I believe is important as a trainer is also honesty. You have to be able to adapt, and you have to honestly be able to assess that to your fighter. So if you have a fighter in front of you, I think I talked about this before, that, listen, we got a fighter in front of us that hits very, very hard. And sometimes in life is hitting very, very, very hard. So you have to be able to sit that kid down and say,
Right.
listen, this is going to be a tough battle. One thing in the mental conditioning movement and the mental conditioning gym we don't do is we don't do the go get one for the gipper. We keep it real honesty. This is going to be tough. This ain't going to be no easy fight. That opponent that's over there, he ain't scared. Life is not afraid. And they going to come at you. And then when you think you got them beat, they're going to come at you again. So I think it's very important for us when we have these conversations is to have that adaptability, but to have very honest assessment of what these young men and women are going to be facing. That's very critical. And to be able to tell them, listen, it's going to be a very tough fight. Strap up. Let's get in the gym and work hard and make sure that we have the mental muscles to be able to push through for whatever it is that we're doing.
And what
I would like to add on.
Yeah.
I would like to add on to something with that, because using the boxing analogy and mentoring is very, very good as a trainer, because you can have a very experienced fighter, and all according to his opponent, your trainer might say, hey, for this fight, I need you to adapt to his to his southpaw style. Okay. Because a southpaw fights very differently than a regular orthodox fighter. So now, or you might want to say, hey, we might want to go southpaw this fight, at least for the first 3 rounds, to show him a different look. That's adapting, because it gives you the actual advantage that now you are seeing your opponent in a certain way. You are being skillfully ready for this fight coming up. So I boxed years ago, and that's one thing that I've learned, is that you can't take every fighter with just an orthodox one-way plan. You have to be able to adapt to who you have in front of you. Go ahead,
And
Ray.
I like what you're saying in that, and because as you go into mentoring and you meet these individuals for the first time, you're about to develop a relationship. And so you have to see, and one of the core qualities is you have to be a good observer. You have to see the different nuances of each individual and how you're going to mix that all together. And I find that one of the core qualities in making a great mentor is one, love. You got to come from a place of love. You got to love self. And as a result of loving self, that pours into the young men that you're going to mentor. You got to have compassion. You got to have transparency, right? You have to have commitment. Those qualities are essential to developing a really great mentor, but also it's the springboard to creating future men, future leaders, and future mentors, because they will emulate what they see. So what you observe then gives you the skills necessary to be able to project to them the message and the feeling that you want, so that they can begin to repeat that and kind of want to copycat that and be the better version of you as they go forward.
And one quick thing I'm going to add to what you said, Ed and John, and this is the part that gets tricky. You know, as you're giving that information, and I'll piggyback off what you said, John, when you're teaching about, oh, this is going to be a different fight. And this is where it's tricky with mentoring. We have to make sure that we're giving these young men, they have to still have their confidence. That's very important, to not, train them in a way that we'll say, well, you know what, then the way my trainer talking, the way my mentor is talking, I can't do it. That's the tricky part about that. That's why everybody can't do this. And that goes back to what you just said, Ray. That's why you have to have the love for this. You have to have you have to know one thing as a trainer, or as a mentor, as a mentee, I love you. That can never be questioned. So when I tell you something in the ring that's kind of like, I don't know about that one, coach, you have to be able to trust me and know that we're working together and know it's going to work. Do we know for sure? But you have to be able to trust in each other. That's a big part of it.
And John and I were sharing that. Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Well, there's another word that I think that sometimes that we leave out as mentors. If you're going to be a real good mentor, you got to have patience.
Woo.
Okay? Got to have patience, because of your mentee doesn't get it right away all the time. Some do, but you got to have patience that this is a journey. This is a process. No, because you're taking them from one stage of a mindset to change it and instilling a different mindset within them. So that takes a little bit of time. But I've watched mentors that don't have patience and they give up right away. And Ray, that taps back into love, which you talked about. Being able to have that love, knowing that, it's going to take me a little time, but we're going to get through this journey there together. And just like what Elliot said, you got to trust. You got to be able to trust that I'm here with you through the good, the bad, the ugly. But I'm going to walk this journey with you, not walking alone.
You
Yeah,
see,
I
well,
agree.
John and I were talking the other day, and we were talking about our past mentees. And every time they would come back and talk to the newer generation mentee, they'd say, "Man, you guys got it lucky. You guys got it easy." And we had to adapt to the newer type of version of young men because I used to use a very simple analogy that I used to use in the military, and I used to put them in a formation. I used to line them up, and it was working on different skills, their attention skills. They were seeing that although I was being tough on them, that I loved them because I wanted to see them succeed and win, but there was a process that they had to go through. So just through that simple organization of bringing them together, then we were able to observe and see who was a little further along in the leadership process and kind of build on that. But at the end of it all, what they thought was tough in the beginning, they loved it. They embraced it because they knew where it came from. They knew it came from a place of love and concern to wanting to see them succeed. Go ahead, John. I see you want to weigh in.
No, it's just that it's just something, that I just had a conversation over the weekend about this. And it's around mentoring and how we have to mentor differently than we used to, Ray. You know, that conversation we was having. We can't mentor the same way. So in the conversation, it was brought up. Could you today, you remember that documentary Scared Straight?
Yeah.
Remember that, right, y'all?
Yeah,
You couldn't even
I sent kids to it at Rikers.
You can't even do that today, man.
Yeah.
The actual environment around us is so sensitive that if you was to show a video of men yelling at young men and cursing them out and being downright to the bone, man, people will be like, nah, you can't do that today, man. You can't mentor like that, man. You can't scare them straight. You have to almost coddle them in a manner, and that's where the word adapting comes from, and which we have to do, is do it in a different nature because you can't be that strong-handed with them anymore.
Let me ask you a question, guys. And from your experience and what you guys have experienced when you're saying you can't do that anymore, where is that coming from? Do you guys feel that's coming from the parents, that a parent will challenge you like, yo, what are you doing? Or just society in general? Where is it coming from more?
I would say a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both, because if you're in a school environment, then you have to adhere to the standards of, say, the Board of Education.
Right.
The Board of Education will only allow you to go but so far in how you interact with an individual. Some of it is parents, but with the parents, they're a little bit more easier to conform because I've had that experience with parents. What it comes from is they're just scared. A lot of them just don't trust because things have happened and they really aren't comfortable with relinquishing that kind of power to another individual. But once they get to know you, I've found that parents just kind of go with the program because I would always tell parents that all we are is an extension of your family. We want to be that extension that kind of sees what you don't see, kind of works with what you can't work with, and a lot of the boys, young men had single parents, and most of the time it was mothers. So it would be like, Mom, I get it. You've had to raise them. You've had to be everything for them, but you can't teach them how to be a man. Only a man can do that. And if you allow me the opportunity, and then that would open up. Go ahead, John.
Now, L, because what I want to add to Ellen, what I'm going to use is this example here. I was at Bedford Stuyvesant Boxing Association back in the late 80s. And that gym, man, some of the things you heard said in that gym that the trainers was actually saying, punch the blood out of him. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Oh, it was raw. But now I bet you if you go into the gym that's public and there's people around, you don't hear the trainer getting gritty like that. Because they can't, because, sight will be turned off. Parents will be turned off. It's a certain level, even coaching wise. Ray, you remember when we was being coached, how, the coach was raw. But now if you try to do that now with this thing called social media, and it goes to social media, and now you are ostracized because you can't talk like that. You can't speak like that. That's why it's a lot different now, man. It's different on how we have to handle this nature and then also, let's say it again, these generation is sensitive in a different manner. You know, we have to address that part of it.
Well, I tell you,
I had to shift in the seats. He's like, hold on, wait a minute.
because and Ray, I think this is why you're doing this, and this is why it is important, because we need that aspect. You know what I mean? We can't completely forego that. Kids need that piece. So I look at it like, what's the challenge to us to get it in there? That's what you're asking. That's why we're doing this, because I think that's important. And I would go back to what Ray said earlier. It's very important for us to make sure that the kids, the family, you can't do much about what society, they have to know we love them. That's the biggest piece. They got to know that. So when I say, you know what, get your ass over here now, you know that I'm saying that out of love. And that's, I think, maybe where we, not us on the line, but maybe that's where some of our mentor are falling short. Do you guys think?
So what I'll throw out there is this: mentoring in a group session should not be open to social media, should not be open to public, should not be open to parents. It is a space, a safe space that everybody can get in, and like you said, get in the gym and get the work in. And some of the work is raw and gritty, but like you said, you got to trust and know that the love is there, that what you're going to walk out of that gym with, what you're going to walk out of those doors with, what you're going to walk out of those schools with, is a better product than what walked in, a stronger product, a more confident product, a more aware product. Because what I always say, Ray knows, yo, those streets out there ain't kind. Okay. Those streets out there is not gonna coddle you. Yo, those streets out there, you gotta be aware, not saying that you have to engage, but you gotta be aware of what that environment is out there and the way you mentor now. So then skillfully, these young men, because now with social media pressure, peer pressure, when you have the vaping pressure, when you have all these things over these young men's head, they have to navigate it in a manner that they don't look soft, they don't look weak, they aren't viewed or ostracized or pushed out. They can still be able to navigate these roads that they're going to pick and choose. You know, the one thing which I'll bring up, Ray, is this evening we're having a meeting with our alumni, which we have trained up. And I'm looking forward to having that conversation with them to see where they are, because that's when they realize what the ocean looked like. They was in a small fishbowl for 8 years. And now when they walk out into the ocean and they see the sharks, they see the whales, they see all of the things out there, they come back and tell you, yo, I was either prepared or I wasn't prepared, or I'm learning. And this is where the mentoring part. I'll tell any mentor out there, man, I'm telling you, don't mentor through social media. Don't mentor through public. Make it a cipher where it's a small cipher where y'all can come there together and get some real work in. So then when you go out, that you can see the product speak for itself.
And one thing we that doesn't stay old, one thing that we still use, we always ask young men, what do you want? If you could take an imaginary mirror and put it in front of you and you're looking at yourself, we want to know, what do you want for yourself? And if I'm talking to the newer generation now, I would say, look, I'm trying to take you from being a YN to a YM. Well, how do I take?
That's a bar right there, money. Man,
you got to tell me what you want, because life is about choices. What we're trying to do is help you make informed choices, right?
Yeah.
And everything that we say to you here, you may not get it all, right? But strive to be the best version of yourself each and every time that you show up, right? So that you can take some tools and put it in your toolbox. I think when we meet with these young men later on today, and, you know, when John put it out there, they just started responding because, you know, because they know that we're still a safe space. They know that we're still a place where they can have a cipher and really say what they really feel.
Yeah.
Like I said, it takes a mentor that's attentive to what they're hearing, because there were times that we took, for instance, we had a cipher in one of our sessions where we said, well, y'all like to rap? Put how you feel in a rap. And they jumped on that right away. And before you do it, man, they would just add it. But you could see that a lot of our young men today are misguided because of social media.
Yes.
And because of social media, they begin to follow a pattern. So they, like John said, so they're not looked at as being soft
Yes.
or being somebody that could be a victim. And so
Yes.
I'm hearing even on social media that you have a lot of these YNs right now that are trying to change up their look. They're trying to evolve into something different. Go ahead, John.
Yo, it's just one thing that I ask is this, and I know, like I said, adapting, but I want to try and start making a real initiative to remove that word YN, that term YN. I don't even know where it came from. I really, it just spawned up. And now, yeah, I mean, yo, it is ridiculous, but I love the YM, man. Yo, we need more YMs than anything. But even on top of that, Ray, what I want to throw out there, because we're talking about mentoring, and any potential mentor, I want to speak to you on this. Don't have the perception that you have all the answers. Okay.
That's right.
Because a lot of times I find mentors jump in this game and they think they have all the answers and they can fix everybody. You can't.
Right.
Okay.
You can't.
If you reach one, that's paramount. If you reach one, you have done an outstanding job, man. But a lot of times guys come into the mentoring world and they think that I'm going to reach everybody. I'm going to, listen, your plight and your path isn't anybody else's. Only thing you can do is mentor every individual individually. You might be in a group session and you speak to a group, but you break them down, like Ray say, you recognize them for who they are individually because their needs are individually needed. Okay. Do not try to go in and try and make it as, yo, you can give all the water to all the seeds at the same amount. It's not going to work.
One of the statements I used to use, and some people used to think it was harsh. I said, look to the guy to the right, look to the guy to the left. All of you ain't gonna make it.
Yes.
And all of a sudden you get that. Once I got that response, I said, okay, now I got a pulse. But say to yourself, I'm not gonna be that guy.
Yes.
Right. And that automatically let them know that we weren't coming in trying to do it all. What we're trying to do is take them where they are and help them navigate so that they don't fall into the snares of the world. Go ahead, Elliot.
Yes.
I know you were going to chime in.
I know, two quick things. First of all, Ray, excellent point. And I tell people all the time, they ask me about, well, what is, mental conditioning? Is it positive thinking? And I say, it's not positive thinking. It's not negative thinking, but it's what you just stated. It's reality-based thinking. And to me, as a mentor, it's very important that you give kids that foundation, particularly our young men. And I want to talk a little bit about what John just said about that term. And I'm going to give you my personal story about that word. Listen, we were all young and that word popped out of our mouths, no problem. And I was about 23 and I was working in Manhattan. I'll never forget this. And again, everything seems to come back to boxing to me. But Roy Jones was fighting at the Garden. And they would, and in Bryant Park, which is a park in the city, they were doing a press conference. And Roy Jones was there, and they were pumping the fight. It was for Friday. The fight was going to be Saturday. Naughty by Nature was there, and they was up on stage. They were doing their thing, and they throwing the N-word around like it was nothing. And it was nothing to me either. I'm like, no problem. There was an older gentleman in the back. I was working at the time, so I had to be on the low. So I snuck outside, and I'm out there, and there was an older gentleman in the back. And every time they said that word, it was as if he got shot. And I don't mean mentally. You could physically see. He was like, say, yo, Pops, what's going on? What's wrong with you, man? He said, young man, you don't understand. You don't understand what that word means to me. And when he said that to me, I didn't understand. But just his actions made me say, man, that ain't physical. That's mental. That this dude is like, you don't understand. And so when that word is coming out, like you said, that why, and they saying that thing, I'm kind of like that older dude now, like, yo, we got to chill out. But that's part of, again, that's not physical to me, guys. That's part of the mindset piece to say, you know what? That's a word that we have to guard that. That's very important that we have to guard that. That's the reality base of giving the foundation. What does that really mean to us? That to me.
But then now you're getting into culture, right?
Yes, sir.
That has been ingrained in the culture. So in trying to establish the culture change, that's got to be a one person, one block, one community, one city process at a time, because it's establishing unlearned behavior. And it's been so ingrained in us for so long that now you have to take a whole generation of people and reprogram them. And that's where it becomes a very, I won't say impossible job, but a very hard job for mentors.
Right. Yes. One step at a time, one fight at a time.
So Ray, as you've never heard me use that word there at all. It's not a part of my vocabulary. The reason being is this: I am in charge of my vocabulary. Nobody else is. The fact of that is just like what L said, is a mental thing, man. If you chose, but nothing you is saying is wrong, Ray. It is being able to, that my mentor that I have trained me up to realize the impact of that term, of that word. And I was able to remove it from my vocabulary. I use brother, friend, my man, my homie, all of those things like that, man. I don't have to use that word. But the fact of this, it is difficult for a person of a sane mind to have a hard time to be able to remove a word from their vocabulary. I want you to think about that for a moment. You are the one that is in control of the words that formulate in your mind and come out of your mouth. Why is it so hard for you to say, I won't use that word? You've never ever seen any of the people that use that word go to work and use it towards their boss. Use it towards, there's a code switch that they know when it's not acceptable. As El said, with the music, it is acceptable in the music because of who it has put in front of and is applauded to be used. So I don't want to go any deeper than that there. But another thing that I do want to bring up in mentoring is this here. Brothers, if you're going to be a mentor, mentors don't wear capes. I want you to understand that. Mentors are the actual person that fills in the gap. A mentor is a person that right enters your life as a father figure, not your father, as a brother figure, not your blood brother, but your brother figure, as your uncle. That mentor plays many different aspects and roles in a young man's life. You're not the hero. If you come in with a hero complex, you're going to more than likely watch this person lose in the end, because there are no heroes in this mentoring thing. Ray and I know. We speak about that in our journey, we've only lost one, that on my side. And that was painful. I can't imagine, man, or carrying the weight and the pressure of, I'm trying to make sure that 100 make it through this war, make it through this fight, make it through this journey. That's why I said I really limited to one. If we get one through, everyone after that one is a bonus, man. So, any mentor out there thinking about mentoring, don't wear a cape, because it's not needed.
And that's what you need to understand. You need to understand what mentoring is, right? Mentoring for me was discipleship. And what discipleship meant for me is that I'm an imperfect person.
Absolutely.
Trying to impart my wisdom into an imperfect human being. Just understand the principles of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to keep you from repeating some of the mistakes I've made. You will make mistakes, but if I can keep you from making the ones that I made through transparency, that's discipleship. That's mentorship. Because then, like I said before, that young man under your tutelage learns the principle. Now, on the flip side of the other stuff we were talking about, using the word, it's two things, right? You got the code switches, because the same people using it in their music are the same people sitting at boardroom tables using different vocabulary.
Right.
Say it again. Say that again. That's facts.
But then you do have a culture that does not know the way to choose and use words. So they use what they learn. This is the vocabulary of the street. This is all I know. I don't know how to flip that into a different word. And you don't understand that words are spells, right? Power of life and death is where? In the tongue. What you speak becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So speaking things into the world, you have to help young men understand that too. Okay, you feeling angry right now? All right. Let's talk about how to choose your words wisely so you can work out of that situation. Because going down the path of responding the way you want to respond is not going to get you to the desired outcome you want. It's just going to breed more ignorance, right? Ignorance breeds more violence. Violence breeds more destruction. And before you know it,
Mm.
you have what we've been subjected to in our communities that we grew up with. And that didn't just happen overnight. That was implanted and
Yes.
grown to change.
Yes. And I tell you, Ray, I think you said something that's so critical, and we need to really look at that, and I'll throw it back to you to really get into that. And that's principles. You guys and John said, we don't wear a cape. And whenever I'm speaking to anybody, I never run away from my imperfections. I never run away from sometimes saying like, yo, man, I don't really know. We can figure that one out together. But we use the principles. In my gym, I told you guys in the first session, we go off of 4 principles, and that's self-evaluation, decision-making, big picture, and being able to stay the course. And anybody that trains with me, we try to get you to understand that, because I ain't going to be there with you all the time. So you have to understand, Ray, you said that earlier, who you are. When you understand that, you're going to be able to make those decisions. I don't like people that been in my gym for 5 years. No good. That means I'm not doing what I need to do. You need to be able to say, I know who I am. I know how to make these decisions. I know how to evaluate myself. I know how to make sure I have my big picture. You said that earlier, Ray. And this way it does take patience. And it's frustrating. You ask a young man, what do you want to do? And a lot of times, unfortunately, you guys know this better than me. They're going to be like, I don't really know. You got to have patience to dig, to be like, and you start talking to them, be like, wait a minute, this is a great talent that you have. Embrace that. And a lot of times that's where I think mentoring does come into play. That's a skill set that you have. That teacher say you keep talking in class, but one thing I noticed, everybody in the class listen when you talk. That's a skill. But you got to be able to embrace that. How do you use that? But it's a lot of times in school, yo, Grace, John, stop talking. But guess what? These 2 boys, they got the best podcast going in the world.
Yes, sir. That's what we're building over here. But
yes, sir. Yes.
I always try to bring things back into faith without giving faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of helping young men work towards that, and kind of then we can have that discussion when they open up that conversation, they open up that door. But I deal from 5 different principles I'm looking at, right? Worship, connect, grow, serve, and go. It's a faith-based concept, but I always ingrain that in the mentoring aspect, because like mentioned before, this is a ministry. So getting young people to say, well, who you worshiping? Because it look like they're worshiping right now. They're worshiping the YN culture. Before that, it was the, Bloods, Crips, whatever gang they wanted to call themselves, right?
Yes, sir.
Right? Who are you connecting with? Because who you connect with then dictates who you kind of worship, who you follow, right? How are you growing? Are you allowing us to help you grow? Is this program helping you grow?
Yes.
Because eventually we want you to serve like we serve, right, John? We always talk to young men. We want you to pay it forward, but eventually you got to go.
You got to go, right? I agree, man. That's why I say, and I love when people come to my gym, but if you've been coming to my gym for 5 years and we still having the same conversation, I feel like I'm not doing my job. My kids also bowl. And when they go bowling, I've been coaching my kids for about 8 or 9 years, 10 years. And one of the biggest thing with me, if a kid been bowling for 4 years and he has a simple 7-pin or just 1 pin up, we shouldn't be coming up, hey, coach, how do I hit that? No, come on, man. This is what we're doing. You have to be able to grow to say, I need you to make these decisions. I need you to go out there and be able to navigate through that. The Chicago Bulls, who, listen, I can't stand them son of a guns because they beat us many years. I shed a few tears, I will admit. But Phil Jackson, to me, the greatness of Phil Jackson as a coach was when the teams were going a big run against the Bulls, this is what Phil Jackson did. He didn't call no timeout. He put his leg up. Y'all got to work this out. And that was always amazing, and it was demoralizing to the other team because other teams say, they going to call a timeout? They don't call a timeout because I taught you how to get through that. That's the greatest, to me, thing that you can do for a young man. Give him the ability to navigate through this thing called life, especially when you have to go through adversity. It takes time, but you want to see that forward progress in our young men, particularly. It's very important.
What I want to touch on is this here, and piggybacking off of what Ray said, and again, I want to, because this conversation is about mentors and getting them to understand what mentoring is. What I found in this journey, I found that Yes, you have as MCC Light called it, you have the roughnecks that need mentoring. But there's another aspect is that you have the fatherless son. You have the disconnected son from his father. There's many
Yeah.
times that you can have a father in the household, but not present in his son's life, or having over presence in his son's life. And
Yeah.
that navigation of you stepping in, and that's why I said I call it filling that gap, is being able to give him a balance, because you want him to be respectful to his father, but then at the same time, you don't want him to go the opposite direction to rebel from his father because of,
Yeah.
or the fact that he don't have a father, and he's managing that emotional aspect of, I don't have a father in my life. And I'm looking at
Yeah.
others that right have a father. So now here comes a role model that steps in, and now you have to carry that presence. You can't be contradictory. You can't be a hypocrite by telling him one thing, and then when he see you outside, he see you moving differently. So these are the things that you have to navigate about being a mentor, because as you do have young men out there that just needs a presence in their life, that needs a different voice in their life. Know of a young man that has a father in his life. His father is a solid dude, but he don't listen to him, man. He can't hear him no more. After 27 years of life of listening to that one voice, he needed a different voice in his head that he can get it, because that one voice he done tuned out. And so now in steps a different voice with a positive aspect, but also seeing the whole dynamic of trying to make sure that we blend this as we go. I'm not pushing the father out the picture, but here's another aspect of another avenue to listen to, and we balance this out. So this way you be a better, productive young man as you move forward. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
I think Queen Latifah said it best. You and I, one of the things that I did before we came to Men of Valmont, and then one of the things we did with Men of Valmont, is have the breaking bread. And the breaking bread was really to invite fathers
Excellent.
so that they can hear their sons and their sons can hear them. And those
Excellent.
fathers that showed up were dads that really understood that it's okay for another man to come alongside you and help you out.
Yes.
Because sometimes fathers come from a place of hurt. They come from a place of somebody not pouring into them. And so they don't understand and know how to pour into their sons. So again, like the moms, like I told you about what I would say to the mothers, the same thing with the dads. We're just an extension of your family, bro. And I had a few dads that were strong men that allowed me the opportunity to speak to their son. And when I saw that, I would always encourage communication, unification with their fathers, right? Because one of the things that, when I first watched the Black Panther, and you remember when T'Challa meets his father in the afterlife, and the father says the worst thing a father could do is not prepare his children for the day that he no longer here.
Leaves. He departs. That's his job, to prepare him for that.
So we have to prepare the young men's fathers just as much as we're preparing the young men for those situations. But on the flip side, for those that don't have, I think I said to a group of young men one time, I said, I have a father that sent me to help you understand that you may not have a biological father, but understand in life, if you allow yourself the opportunity, you will have many fathers that will help guide you, whether it's a coach, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a preacher. You will have, if you stay still long enough and allow it to happen, you will have many fathers to take the place of the one that was not there. But we can't allow them to have the excuse that, I ain't got a dad, so I'm just going to screw up.
Yeah, that's so powerful what you guys are sharing. And I would ask you guys, with your experience of seeing that, particularly in our community, the dads that are there, John, you just gave that example. Do you guys think that that's a little bit of a challenge that the fathers that are there, they would discourage, interaction with mentors?
So what I'm going to say, that's a case by case basis, because of, ego has a lot to do with that. As Ray just shared, is that the father allows. I've been in situations, and not only the father, the mother, is afraid to have their child mentored because of what might come out, what might get shared. Oh,
Right.
as you know, behind that closed door, there's a lot of times family secrets. There's a reason why this child is behaving the way he is, or his mind is the way it is, the way you have to rewire him is because of the secrets behind the door. A lot of times there's some parents that don't want that secret out. And then also on the same aspect, you have fathers that are wearing masks, that they go out in public and they pump their family up. Yo, I am the greatest dad ever. But you never see him with the son. You never see him with the kid, because now when the kid comes around, oh, you have to act a certain way because of this persona that I've put out there. But he knows if he gets on a one-on-one, or even go to a therapist, and some of the stuff that child is going through, that he knows that he has a direct hand on, he don't want that out there. So it is a case by case basis. It's a difficult road, man. That's one of the difficult roads about why so many times you don't have a lot of kids in mentoring programs, because of the parents don't want things to get out. There's some parents now, and I'll give kudos in a heartbeat. Ray knows there's been parents that come to us, be like, yo, I need my son in this program. I want my son in a program. My son needs help. They identify that I see what's going on. Then you have the others, man, that will avoid it. Yo, they will avoid it like a flu shot. They're like, I'm not letting him get help. We gonna figure this out. And they have no tools on figuring it out.
It's tough, man.
That's the cultural stigma that has to be broken. It only comes with consistency and time, and people didn't know what we were doing when we started Men of Belmont. And then I say, I always had a ceremony at the end of the year. I would have a rites of passage ceremony, right? And so that's how we got started, with having that one night where the young men could be celebrated and people could see their progress.
Yes.
So it wasn't a program about us. People were seeing them public speak. Parents never seen their kids public speak at any time.
Yes.
Kids were showing their discipline. And after the event, and then I would do a ritual prayer, right? Which I had to tailor because, the board of the DOE didn't allow us to use God or Almighty or whatever. So I would do an affirmation between the parents speaking to the kids and the community speaking to the kids. We would end the ceremony with that. And after every year, we would have parents coming up to us in tears.
Yes.
Boo-hooing, saying, I had no idea of what this was. Because what I understood is the young men needed covering. They needed to know that the community, they needed to know that their family had their back. What better way to do it than a call and response?
Yes.
Ray, I'm going to push back on you, because and Ray, I know you and I love you, but I'm going to call it to the carpet how it is. All right. We open the doors to a community for a free mentoring program to uplift betterment of your child, to enrich your child, to give them the guidance into manhood. Because as Ray presented, it's manhood development. And that's a process. That's a journey. And let's say it, Ray, let's call it out, man. It wasn't like the community said, yo, let's throw our kids in there. Let's get in there. Yo, let's take advantage of this. They didn't do that, kid. What they did is they sat back and let the program go without their child being involved in it, knowing that this can probably help them. Now, I can understand the first year. There's a little
Why, John? Why?
Because of, and I'm going to say it again, that door, that when they go into that home and that door closes, there's a lot of stuff going on behind that door that they don't want out. Then, because again, what happens now, both of y'all are retired officers. When you go to a domestic violence call, that's not the time 9 times out of 10. It's just the time that now you have been called, right or wrong. Right? And now, but there's been things going on in that household, so now it then got to a point that 911 had to be dialed. And a lot of times you go there, what is there? Kids involved in this madness. And then CPS is called. Now, let me say it again. Now, when the courts get involved, when the judge get involved, now it's mandated that there's therapy being instituted, that there's that there's orders of what protection. But now, what is this costing you money? When I'm talking about a free program that is available to a community, doors wide open. Let's go. And you ain't taking advantage of it? Yo, we should have had standing room only every year. Because once you heard about it, because Ray knows, yo, flyers go out, videos are out. Yo, listen, we have a summit every year. People see it, but they come and see it. But why ain't your son coming through these doors? Well, I don't think he has enough time. I don't think he got this going on. He got that going on. But you're seeing that. Let me tell you something. The program has a 99% graduation rate going into college, not just in high school, going to college or the armed services or to a trade school. 99
or higher education.
Okay, so let me say it again. And many times these young men came into this program with no aspirations about going to college. By the time they go through the program, yo, I'm going here, I'm going there. But you see, again, I look back and I say, hold on, wait a minute, man. Why aren't our doors wide open? Why ain't this room jam-packed? Because you can impact lives if you allow to impact the lives. So go back to what we was originally talking about is this. People don't want their kids helped. Or a lot of times they don't even see the need. They don't even see that there's an issue.
Right.
So what they do, just like you. Now, you have a gym, all right? But now people know about it. But are they
don't
coming?
Understand.
Are they in the gym? Are they coming to get?
What you're saying is so powerful, and the key word that stands out to me is understanding. And I go through that. Me and you have had conversations, and Ray, we talked about that a little bit when we went off the air the last time. Understanding is so very important. And you said something that, Ray, I have to piggyback on that, and I want to commend you and pat you on the back because I've done it. And even me, when I saw it, it was like, we opened up by saying one of the difficult parts about mentoring is, coming down and making sure that our mentees, we have to understand their mindset. And believe me when I tell you, for me, and I'm being very transparent, sometimes it's hard because certain things that I just take as like, well, doesn't everybody know that? No. It's something as simple as reward. You talked about at the end, we gave these kids a reward. You don't understand how many people do not ever be rewarded. And the parents have never been rewarded. And so they're kind of like, well, what the hell? So what? There's some kind of program. Who knows? They don't understand that aspect of like, do you realize what we're going to be able to give to that child? So like you said, John, I go through that. That's why I'm laughing, because I go through that. That's my journey of getting people to understand the work. But I'll use a boxing analogy again. There's fighters out there that got a lot of talent and they never became a champion because they didn't understand, bro, you got to get into that gym every day. You know why Floyd Mayweather was so good? This dude trains so hard that Hall of Famers went to the gym like, yo, this dude is crazy. I'm talking about guys that were champions, and they went to the gym and trained with him once and said, yo, this dude is out of his mind. Because that dude had an understanding the work. John, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But I see, okay. But I'm going to throw it back. I'm going to throw it back again. We got the Dad's Club, right or wrong?
Same problem.
How much does the Dad's Club?
John, that's another issue for me.
Hold on, but answer the question for the public. For those that's watching this, I just want to make sure. How much does the Dad is free, right?
Yes.
You would think
Dad's Club is free, guys.
Free. But you would think a place for brothers, fathers, uncles, brothers, stepfathers, whatever you want to call it, can come and commune and lay down whatever burdens that they have for free among other men in a room. That room will be jam-packed.
But
the moment you hear about it.
You know why that happens?
Go ahead, man.
Because culturally, we don't trust. We always think that there is an underlying issue. This guy can't possibly be given a program for free. Something's got to be up with it, right? John and I, we talk about it all the time.
What if you charge money? Are they going to come?
You don't charge. You don't charge any money. What that does is it exposes the frauds, the people that are getting hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars to do what you do for free become exposed. They say, wait a minute, this guy over here in Elmont is doing this program for free. And they got 99% graduation rate. and kids are going on to graduate school and trade schools and all this other stuff. This place over here is getting millions of dollars, and you may get maybe 50% of the kids going off to college. What is the difference? The difference is, and we've been talking about it, the difference is love, standing the why, transparency, willingness, right, to make these young men a selling point, right? Politicians offered me money. People offered me money, but they wanted a photo op. I would never subject the kids to the photo op, because if I'm telling the kids A and I do B, that makes me a phony. That makes it not about them. It makes it about what I can get out of it in the service to them. And that's where we kind of have an issue culturally.
So let me share something with you, because it just happened last week. And I don't use names. No, man. A gentleman and I was having a conversation, and I've been telling him about the Dad's Club. He's a dad, grandfather, an uncle, a son, and we're having a conversation. And he says that he goes when he needs to get away and he needs to deal. He goes to his man cave in his basement. And I said, yo, so you go to the man cave, who's down there with you? Oh, it's just me, man. Yo, I put the game on and I'm there, I'm drinking my beer, and it's just me. So I said, yo, you do this all the time. I do this all the time. That's what it is. I said, so, but you're going down there to get away from what? Well, you know, man, life, man. You know, yo, I got this, you know, and then it's that going on. And I said, so you commune among yourself, and you're trying to self-help through sitting on a couch with a beer watching a game. And are you getting answers from it? Because I asked him, how long you been doing this? He said, oh, man, I've been doing this for a couple years now, man. And I said, so you still going down, and just like Elle said earlier, 5 years later, you still going down into the basement, to the couch, to the beer. You haven't elevated beyond getting out off the couch, getting the beer out of your hand, because you're not helping yourself, kid. I said, yo, you need to be able to come around others and try to find out other ways to better manage what you're dealing with, man. But Ray, he don't want to get.
You can't escape into a cave. To escape into a cave means that you're disconnecting from reality, that you're listening
1,000%.
Your own voice is already flawed. So that the enemy got you right there. That's where he wants you. He wants you in the cave. Meanwhile, your family and everybody is above ground, but you're below ground, hiding from yourself.
But Ray, but check it out. I've been telling him about the Dad's Club. See what I'm saying? I'm using this example because of what Elle asked. Yo, will they come out? He has not come to one Dad's Club meeting yet. Because of, like you said, yo, the dungeon that he's sitting in, he has used this place of comfort now. But like you said, he's not doing nothing to help himself. If you're only talking to you, then you're only going to get the same lying answer as everything is okay. But it's not. But I use this example because Elle, like you asked, if they paid for it, if it's free, that's not the problem. The problem is that they don't see that walking out the door and going somewhere to receive counseling, not knowing, trying it out. Let's see what I'm going to get out of this. Let me walk through the door. Let me explore this possibility. See, and Ray said it might be cultural, but for some reason, they're not doing it to take the steps. And that's why I applaud all the brothers, which we have a part of the Dad's Club, when they do come out. It's a beautiful thing, because each time we gain something from it. But that's what mentoring is engaging the ones that want to find help, that want to seek mentoring. It's not whereas it's easy, because not everybody wants it.
And if you could just a lot of times, if you just get them to come out, John, you've seen it, Ray, I'm sure you've seen it. I've seen it, even with the gym, even with my group sessions. Sometimes you have people that come, you can tell, we've been doing this a long time. You can tell, look on their face, they kind of like, yeah, I'm here. But by the time it's over, they like, yo, I'm not going front. Like, what's that? I liked it. They just, in that work, they understood, like, yo, I didn't really, and that's the part where it makes me kind of sad, because the brother, like you talking about, John, it's not that he's being combative. He just don't understand. You don't understand. And the hard part about it, and the frustrating part, is like, yo, man, just try it. Go back to what Ray said, that's a cultural thing, in that we don't try stuff. We've been conditioned to be like, yo, just stay home or just hang out in the block. That's a problem. We have to get out of that mindset. We have to try stuff, even if you go just once. And John is confident. I'm confident. Ray, I know you confident. Whenever you come to one session of what is it, our gym, dad's club, all the things that we're doing, I ain't worried about it. I know what's gonna happen. Because sometimes people tell me, oh, nobody gonna say nothing. No problem. You don't gotta say nothing. Shit. By the time it's over, and they ready to come back.
So that sounds like that's what his problem is. His problem is fear.
Yes.
His problem is he's afraid that he's actually going to get the answer in the therapy that he needs. He's just in the woe is me mindset. He wants to stay in the I'll just feel bad for myself and I'll just drown my sorrows with a couple of beers and fall asleep. And maybe magically when I wake up in the morning or open my eyes, things will be different, but you can't. Life says that you cannot do this thing alone. You can't do this thing called life alone. You need help, right? Some people get married. They got two people together. Some people are best friends and they go through life and you always got somebody that's got your back. You got somebody that's going to have the tough questions. They're going to tell you about yourself. They're not going to let you off the hook. Some people got that kind of friendship. But some people that are alone and don't know how to ask for it, you just got to keep pecking away at them. Because eventually they're going to get to a point where they can't. If I'm talking to this guy and I say, you know what, let me go biblically on this. Let me see if maybe somewhere he's faith-based. See, I go to church or whatever. I say, so you heard of Elijah and David, right? Yeah, I heard of Elijah the prophet. I heard of King David. Said, did you know one time they ran? They were scared, just like you, and they ran into a cave. And God said, what are you doing here? What are you doing in this cave? I call you to run from, you know what I'm saying? You have to allow yourself to be helped. And that's the only way, because there are a lot of people that escape to a cave. I had a family member that did it. And, you know, when I went and sat before this individual, man, hair had grown, all of it. That's how long they're hanging in the cave. I said, wow, you got too much to live for because you're losing everything that's up there because you're down here.
But at the same time, what I'm going to bring up, y'all, and I think y'all touched on it, is this: that trust aspect, and also worrying about being disappointed and worrying about being fixed. You know, some people have been broken for so long. You know, that's why I try to tell people all the time, mentors needs to reach the young first, because you don't want them to grow up broken. You want to be able to try to help them young so you can start giving them other options mentally of seeing things and seeing life in a different aspect than just being like this. Because many times as adults, we have a lot of broken adults that don't want to be fixed. If you've navigated 40 years of brokenness, they can't imagine what 41 being unbroken look like. You know, just like, you know, just like the example which I gave. His conditioning, his mental conditioning is sitting on a couch, putting on the game, drinking a beer, and talking to himself. That's what he thinks is the answer to what his problems are. But he's not addressing the problems at all. But this is why I said some people sit in brokenness. And walking through a door of getting fixed is scary for them, man. That's why a lot of times you hear people swear off therapy. I ain't getting a therapy. They ain't gonna help me automatically, because you really don't want to be helped. Because like you said, El, try it, explore it. Because the most can happen is it helps you. But the fact you don't even want to take the step towards getting help, the step towards trying to see a different way, says a lot about the brokenness which is within, which is embedded within. Because a lot of times that's what it really has to do with. That's why families are broken. That's why, El, I say it time and time again. As a mentor of young men, that is the leaf. But if the tree is rotten, then the only thing it's going to drop is rotten is. So we got to be able to fix the tree. We got to water the tree as well as the leaf. So this way you have a better village. And that's the hardest aspect of mentoring, is that if you mentor a child, but he's going home to a crazy environment.
Yes, big problem.
Everything we are doing on over here is being counted over here. If he goes home and right? Yo, his parents are slapping him up or just ignoring him, just not
Yeah.
pouring into him. They're all, as I use the other aspect, over pouring. Because some
Yes.
parents don't realize that you set the bar up here and the child is
Yes.
not going to reach it because he's here. And
Mhm.
now he feels like, yo, I'm a disappointment. And that's why a lot of aspects of child suicide is high because of it is a lot of the pressure which is put on young children, man, of having to excel to a place that they can't get to.
Just one thing I want to say to sum up that last segment there. And I just did this message on Monday, and it talked about many of us, and it's a conditioning of our mind that we are afraid to be corrected. That's a big problem. Most conditioned because we're afraid to be corrected. We see that in relationships. We see that in parental situations. We see that in mentor. Even again, as a mentor, I'm still not afraid to be corrected. A mentee can come to me like, yo, this is what's happening. You know what? I learned something. And I ain't afraid to say, yeah, you taught me something on that one.
Leadership.
I always use this example in Motown, the great Barry Gordy, when Stevie Wonder went to him and said, yo, man, I need more money. And he said, I need to write my own stuff. And Barry Gordy was like, you know, we don't do that here. I write the stuff. Me and Smokey write the stuff. Y'all sing it. Stevie Wonder said, no. Either you give me this contract where I write my own stuff or I'm out. So he said, I told Stevie, he said, all right, you know what? One of us going to learn something here today. Obviously, Stevie Wonder went on to become one of the great songwriters in the history. And he says, I tell him to this day, I learned something. That's the mentor telling the mentee, I learned something. But you have to have the mindset to be corrected. And when we don't have, that's a problem. That's a big issue. But let me tell you something. You have to train for that. We all have to train for that because the more knowledge you gain, you start to think like, ain't nobody going to tell me nothing. Okay. You have to learn to be corrected. That's very important.
Yo, L, what you saying that? Yo, each one teach one. That's why we right here, we learn from one another. We don't have all the answers. Yo, Ray has enlightened me a bunch of times. Yo, things that I didn't see, and I seen it one way, and Ray will be like, no, John, look at it this way. And yo, it take me a minute, but I receive it because like you said, nah, you know what? Ray's right. Yo, Ray got that because of that's the humbleness.
Yes.
Yo, mentoring, you have to be humble, man. Like I said, you can't walk in with this hero mentality as I'm saving the world. No, you got to be very humble mentors because you got to be able to take counsel. And as I say, yo, you guys mentor me. I have a mentor because I'm always allowing being poured into. So as I get poured into, I can pour out. Because if I have nothing to pour out, nobody else can actually drink. So I automatically know. I gotta be able to allow things to be poured in.
Yes. Gentlemen, man, I could go for hours with this.
Well, we can do this, man. We could do this.
But I'll close with a poem that I used to use earlier in mentoring, and it's still true today. Even when I coach football, and I used to read this to the team, it says, "The man in the glass. When you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what the man has to say. For it isn't your father, your mother, or wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The fellow whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back at you from the glass." Some people may think you are a straight shooting chump and call you a wonderful guy, but the man in the glass says you're only a bum. If you can't look him straight in the eye, he's the fellow to please. Never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear up to the end, and you have passed your most dangerous, difficult test. If the man in the glass is your friend, you may fool the whole world down to your pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass. But your final reward will be heartache and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass.
You know, just before we end, I just want to share this with you. I lost 2 weeks ago one of my mentors. And the one thing I left with is this here. And we all have done impactful work on this surface world. And what I'm going to say to you is this, man. When our eyes shut, your legacy is those that carry on behind you because of what you poured into them. That is your legacy.
Yeah,
that's right. I agree, man.
We have to do this again. We have to come You know, this needs to be a regular thing. We really each other because I didn't have to read any more questions other than that first one. And you guys
Yeah.
tackled every topic. You went into challenges and the future, practical aspects of mentoring. We talked about the value and impact of mentoring, and we went to understanding the general divide. So I commend each and every one of you, brothers. I love you, man. John, Elliot. I really
Thank you.
see this as being something that will be a future impact
Definitely.
to not
Definitely.
only individuals, but to community, to family. And I think we're on to something. And man, guys,
I'm here for
Oh, let's go.
Ray. You know what I always tell you?
Old Lounge.
What,
Yeah.
whatever you
Continue.
I
need,
love it.
kid. And yo, what I would love to do is, Ray, is when you get a chance, when you get this editing, get it done, I want to send it over to the Men of Elmont. I want to send it over to the Dads Club. They need to hear these kind of conversations. So this way we can inspire, and hopefully, because the next step, y'all, I just want to let you know, as we move forward, is starting to train other mentors coming up. You know, there's no
Yes.
real training ground for
Yes, sir.
guys that want to mentor correctly. So I just want to throw that out there because I would love to try to start passing this on and training others to become solid mentors, man.
Yeah,
I
I'll
agree.
forward you some curriculum stuff. We can delve into how to make it even more impactful and broader. We could bring this thing virtually.
However you
Definitely.
want to do it, Ray. Yo, listen.
We can sit on panels nationally because that's what I believe the energy is from the three of us.
Let's
And
do it. I'm with it.
show these videos, get people to subscribe to this because that's what this is all about, to get people to check in.
What we want
So,
to do.
guys, welcome. Thank you for tuning into the Bold Lounge. Continue
No,
to
thank you,
lead,
brother.
overcome, lead, and eventually deliver. God bless.
Okay. God bless, brothers. Peace.
Don't. I got some exciting news for each and every one of you. And the first question I have is, what have you always dreamt about changing in your life? What are some healthy nutritional habits or foods you want to adopt in 2026? Well, let me tell you, at the top of 2026, the Bold Lounge will be launching a free New Year event on mental health and wellness, right? We will cover nutritional health and wellness. We will cover how to deal with mental stress and strain and just how to get our minds right? So look out for those dates and we will look forward to impacting lives. We will be streaming those dates on our social media platform and we look forward to seeing you continue to be bold, believe, overcome, lead, and deliver.